I was sitting at my parents' dining table on a Sunday evening, expecting nothing more than pot roast and small talk, when my mother slid an envelope across the table. Inside were mortgage documents for a house I had never seen, with my sister Crystal's name as the owner and a handwritten note that read, "Your contribution, $560,000. My father leaned back in his chair and said calmly, "We bought Crystal her dream home. You've been saving for years. It's time you helped family." My jaw dropped. Across the table, Crystal smiled smugly. I stared at the documents, my brain struggling to process what I was seeing. The address was in Maplewood Estates, one of the most expensive neighborhoods in our county. 4 bedrooms, colonial style, immaculate landscaping in the photos paperclipped to the mortgage agreement. "What is this?" I managed to say. My mother reached across and patted my hand like I was a confused child. "Sweetheart, Crystal needed a fresh start. After the divorce, those kids need stability. We found her the perfect home." Crystal was 35, 3 years older than me, recently divorced with 2 kids. Emma was 8 and Tyler was 6. I loved those kids, but I had no idea what any of this had to do with me. "The house cost $560,000, my father explained, using the same tone he used to use when teaching me to balance a checkbook. "We put down $112,000 for the down payment and closing costs. That came from our retirement savings. Now the monthly mortgage is $3,200. Crystal makes about $28,000 a year at that boutique. She cannot afford it alone." I looked at Crystal. She was examining her nails, that same smug expression on her face. "So you expect me to pay the mortgage?" I asked, my voice rising. "Not expect, honey," my mother said. "We know you will. You have been saving for 8 years. You are single, no children, and you make excellent money at that technology company. You have plenty." My stomach dropped. "How do you know how much I have saved?" My father waved his hand dismissively. "Crystal mentioned you told her last Christmas about $580,000, correct?" I had never told Crystal that. I had never told anyone in my family my exact savings amount. I lived modestly in a 900-square-foot apartment, drove a 10-year-old Honda Civic, and brought my lunch to work every day. I had been saving to buy my own first home. That was my dream, my money, my future. "I never agreed to this," I said firmly. "I am not paying for Crystal's house." The room went silent. Then my mother's eyes filled with tears. "Armando, how can you be so selfish? We gave you everything growing up. We fed you, clothed you, put a roof over your head. Now your sister needs help, and you turn your back on family? You paid for Crystal's entire college education," I shot back. "I worked full-time and took out loans to get through state school. You paid $45,000 for her wedding. You bought her a car. You have paid her credit card debts at least 4 times that I know of. I have received nothing, not even help buying textbooks." "That is different," my father said, his face reddening. "Crystal had needs. You were always independent." "Independent because I had no choice," I said, standing up. "I am not paying for a house I had no part in choosing, for a mortgage I did not agree to take on. This is insane." Crystal finally spoke. "You are a heartless uncle. Emma and Tyler need a stable home. But I guess your money is more important than your own niece and nephew." I looked at each of them. My mother was crying. My father looked angry. Crystal looked victorious, like she had already won. "I am leaving," I said. I walked out, my hands shaking, my mind reeling. This could not be happening. 3 days later, a process server showed up at my apartment. I was being sued by my own parents for $560,000. I sat on my couch reading the legal complaint, feeling like I was in a nightmare. They claimed I had verbally promised to help with family expenses. They claimed they had purchased the house based on my assurance that I would cover the costs. The lawsuit included text messages, supposedly from me, agreeing to the arrangement. I pulled out my phone and checked my message history with my parents and Crystal. Nothing. No messages about houses, mortgages, or promises to pay. These texts in the lawsuit were fabricated, completely fake. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the papers. My own parents were not just demanding my money. They were lying to a court to steal it. I spent 2 days in a fog of disbelief before I forced myself to find a lawyer. Patricia Harper came highly recommended. Her office was downtown, sleek and professional. She was in her mid-40s, sharp-eyed, and she did not waste time on pleasantries. "Family lawsuits are ugly," she said after reviewing the complaint. "And this one is particularly nasty. Your parents have created quite a paper trail." She spread documents across her desk. The fake text messages. A notarized statement from Crystal, claiming I had promised to help at a family gathering. And worst of all, a signed family agreement with a signature that looked disturbingly like mine. "I never signed this," I said. "I never sent those texts. This is fraud." "I believe you," Patricia said, "but proving it will cost money and time." Family court judges sometimes have sympathy for elderly parents who claim their successful child is abandoning them. Your parents have hired Bernard Weiss. He is very good at playing the sympathy angle. "How much will this cost me?" I asked. "Initial retainer is $15,000. By the time we get through discovery, depositions, and trial, you are looking at $50,000 to $70,000 in legal fees. Maybe more if they drag it out." I felt sick. The irony was not lost on me. My parents were forcing me to spend the money they claimed I should give them. "We fight this," I said. "I am not rewarding this behavior." Patricia nodded. "Then, we fight." Over the next 2 weeks, my life began to unravel. Word of the lawsuit spread at work somehow. I suspected someone in HR had loose lips. Colleagues started looking at me differently. Some avoided me in the hallway. I overheard whispers in the break room. Family drama. Sued by his own parents. Must be more to the story. My boss, Gordon, called me into his office. He was a decent guy, usually fair, but he looked uncomfortable. "Armando, I need to ask about this lawsuit situation. It is a personal matter," I said carefully. "It will not affect my work." "I hope not. Your performance review is in 6 weeks. You are up for promotion, but personal distractions can impact professional performance. I need to know you are focused." "I am focused," I said, though my stomach was churning. That same week, I had to tell Lynn about the lawsuit. Lynn was someone I had been dating for 4 months. She was a 3rd-grade teacher, warm and kind, and I thought we had something real building. We were having dinner at her apartment when I explained the situation. She listened, her expression shifting from concern to confusion. "Wait, so your parents bought your sister a house, and they want you to help pay for it?" "They want me to pay the entire mortgage, $560,000, without my consent or involvement." "But she is your sister, and those kids are your niece and nephew. That does not give them the right to my life savings." Lynn set down her fork. "I just think family is everything. Could there be a compromise? Maybe pay part of it?" I stared at her. "They are suing me with fake evidence. This is fraud." "I know, but maybe they are just desperate. Parents do extreme things when they are trying to help their children." That was when I realized Lynn did not understand. She came from a close-knit family where everyone helped everyone, but helping was voluntary. This was extortion. "There is no compromise with fraud," I said quietly. She looked away. The rest of dinner was tense. 2 weeks later, I sat in a preliminary hearing. It was my first time seeing my parents since walking out of that Sunday dinner. They sat across the courtroom with Bernard Weiss, who looked exactly like what he was, a shark in an expensive suit. The judge was reviewing the initial filings. Then Patricia stood up. "Your Honor, we would like to bring to the court's attention that the plaintiffs took out a home equity loan on their own residence for $150,000 to facilitate this purchase. They are now facing potential foreclosure." I turned sharply to Patricia. She had not told me this. Bernard Weiss jumped up. "Your Honor, this demonstrates the sacrifice my clients made. They risked their own home to help their daughter, expecting their son to honor his commitment." The judge, an older man named Henderson, looked at me over his glasses. "Mr. Torres, Your parents are facing foreclosure because they relied on your promise to contribute. This is a serious matter. I made no promise, Your Honor, I said, but my voice sounded weak even to me. Judge Henderson ordered mediation before trial. Family disputes should be resolved within the family when possible. I am appointing Dorothy Brennan as mediator. You will meet within 30 days. Walking out of the courthouse, Patricia pulled me aside. They are smart, making themselves look like martyrs. The home equity loan makes them sympathetic, and the judge seems inclined to favor them. This is insane, I said. It is going to get worse, she replied. Your legal fees are now up to $20,000, and we have not even started trial prep. That night, I lay awake calculating. 20,000 spent, maybe 60,000 total by the end. My savings slowly draining away, all to fight off my own family. My phone buzzed. A text from Lynn. I think we need to talk. I knew what that meant. I was losing everything. The mediation took place in a conference room that felt deliberately designed to be uncomfortable. Beige walls, fluorescent lighting, a table too small for 6 people and their lawyers. Dorothy Brennan was in her 60s, gray-haired, with the kind face of someone who probably baked cookies for her grandchildren. I knew immediately she would be sympathetic to my parents. We sat down, my parents across from me, Crystal beside them. Bernard Weiss shuffled papers importantly. Patricia sat next to me, her face unreadable. Dorothy smiled gently. Let us begin by remembering we are all family here. This is about finding common ground. My mother immediately started crying. Full tears, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. I am so sorry, she said, her voice breaking. This stress has made my heart condition worse. I have been to the emergency room twice in the past month. She slid medical bills across the table. $8,000 in cardiac care, EKG reports, prescription bottles for heart medication. Mrs. Torres, I am sorry to hear about your health struggles, Dorothy said sympathetically. Then Crystal opened a folder. Inside were photos of Emma and Tyler. School pictures, both kids smiling with missing front teeth. These are my babies, Crystal said, her voice trembling. Emma made straight A's this semester. Tyler was picked for the gifted program. But if we lose the house, we will have to move to a cheaper district. The schools there are terrible. High crime, drugs. Is that what you want for them, Armando? I clenched my jaw. This was theater. Manipulation. Miss Torres. Dorothy said gently to Crystal, why do you not tell us what it has been like as a single mother? Crystal launched into a monologue about her struggles. The divorce. Working retail. Barely scraping by. Wanting to give her kids a better life. Every word designed to paint me as the villain withholding salvation. Then Emma and Tyler walked in. I had not known they would be here. Emma's eyes were red, like she had been crying. Tyler looked scared. Uncle Armando, Emma said softly, why will you not help us? Did we do something wrong? My heart broke. These kids had been weaponized. They had no idea what was really happening. Emma, sweetheart, this is not about you, I started to say, but Dorothy interrupted. Children, why do you not wait outside? The adults need to talk. After they left, Bernard Weiss took over. He had clearly been waiting for his moment. Let us look at the facts. Armando Torres makes $135,000 annually as a software engineer. He has saved $580,000. He lives in a modest apartment, drives an old car, and by his own admission, lives well below his means. He pulled out printed screenshots from my social media. A photo of Lynn and me at a nice restaurant for her birthday. A picture from a work conference in San Diego. Yet here he is, dining at upscale establishments, taking trips, while his sister struggles to feed her children and his elderly parents face foreclosure. That restaurant was a birthday dinner, I said, and the San Diego trip was for work. Bernard ignored me. Meanwhile, Crystal Torres works part-time for minimum wage, barely making ends meet. Emma needs braces, which cost $5,000. Tyler has asthma and requires expensive medication. The children deserve stability. A good school, a safe neighborhood. Is money really more important than family? Dorothy looked at me. Armando, I understand you feel blindsided by this situation, but is there room for compromise? Your parents and sister clearly need help. They committed fraud, I said. Those text messages are fake. That signature is forged. This entire lawsuit is built on lies. Alleged fraud, Bernard corrected smoothly. Which you have not proven. Patricia spoke up. Our handwriting expert will testify that signature is forged. Our digital forensic specialist will prove those text messages never existed. That will be for a jury to decide, Bernard said. But why put everyone through that? Why waste time and money on a trial when you could simply help your family? Dorothy leaned forward. Armando, speaking from my heart, as someone who has mediated hundreds of family disputes, I believe family is everything. Perhaps you could contribute $300,000. Not the full amount, but enough to show goodwill. Your parents could refinance their home equity loan. Crystal could afford the house. Emma and Tyler would have stability. Everyone wins, except me, I said. I lose $300,000 that I earned and saved. You gain family harmony, Dorothy said gently. You gain peace. You gain the knowledge that you helped when it mattered. I looked at Patricia. She shook her head slightly. This was a trap. I need to speak with my client privately, Patricia said. We stepped into the hallway. Patricia spoke quietly. They are playing this perfectly. The sick mother, the struggling sister, the innocent children. Dorothy is completely sympathetic to them. If we do not settle, this goes to trial, and there is a real risk a jury might side with them emotionally, even if the law is on your side. So what do? We can keep fighting. But it is going to cost you at least $60,000 in legal fees, maybe more. Or you can settle for $300,000 and walk away. That is half my savings. I know. It is your decision. We went back inside. I looked at my parents. My mother was watching me with hopeful, tearful eyes. My father's jaw was set, determined. Crystal looked smug. No, I said. No settlement. We go to trial. Dorothy sighed. I am very disappointed to hear that, Armando. I will have to report to the judge that mediation failed due to your unwillingness to compromise. As we left, my phone rang. It was my Aunt Denise, my mother's sister. Armando, what is wrong with you? Your mother called me crying. She could have a heart attack from this stress. How can you be so cruel, Aunt Denise? They are lying. Your own parents? You think your own parents are lying? I am ashamed of you. She hung up. That night, I checked social media. My cousin Marcus had posted, "Some people care more about money than family." Shameful. He had tagged me. The comments were brutal. Extended family, friends, people I had known my whole life, all condemning me. I was being isolated, systematically cut off from everyone I knew. Lynn sent a text. I cannot do this anymore. The drama is too much. I am sorry. The next day, she changed her relationship status on social media. Single. Then, 2 days later, in a relationship. She had moved on that quickly. I sat in my apartment alone, eating takeout from the same Chinese restaurant I always ordered from, looking at my bank account. $28,000 spent on legal fees. $552,000 remaining. Everything I had worked for was slipping away. My lease renewal notice came in the mail. Rent was increasing from $1,400 to $1,850 monthly. I could afford it, but it felt like one more thing squeezing me. Work was getting worse, too. I missed a deadline on a project because I had to attend a deposition. Gordon called me in again. Armando, this is the second deadline you have missed. I am putting you on a performance improvement plan. You have 60 days to get back on track, or we will have to reevaluate your position here. A performance improvement plan was corporate speak for the first step toward being fired. My coworker Travis, who I had never liked, started taking credit for work I had done on our shared project. In meetings, he would present ideas I had developed, and because I was distracted and stressed, I did not fight him on it. The promotion I had been working toward was slipping away, probably going to Travis instead. I was losing on every front: family, relationship, work, money, everything. Then it got worse. 1 week before trial was scheduled to begin, my parents amended their lawsuit. They added a new claim: elder financial abuse. They now claimed that 5 years ago, I had borrowed $100,000 from them and never repaid it. They produced a promissory note with my signature, dated 5 years prior, promising to repay the loan with interest. It was completely fabricated. I had never borrowed a penny from them. But the note looked real. The signature looked like mine. They had clearly practiced forging my handwriting. Patricia called me as soon as she received the amended complaint. "Armando, this changes everything. If the judge believes you borrowed $100,000 and never repaid it, this is not just a civil matter. This could be criminal. Elder financial abuse is a felony in this state. You could face jail time." "I never borrowed anything," I said, my voice hollow. "I know. But proving that is difficult. They have a physical document. Unless we can definitively prove it is forged, which is expensive and time-consuming, they have created reasonable doubt." "How much is the lawsuit for now?" "With the alleged loan, plus interest, plus the $560,000 for the house, plus emotional damages they are now claiming, you are looking at a potential judgment over $750,000. Armando, if you lose this case, you will be financially destroyed. Bankruptcy, wage garnishment for the rest of your life. Possible criminal charges." I hung up and stared at the wall of my apartment. They were not just trying to take my money. They were trying to destroy my entire life. 4 days before trial, I could barely function. I called in sick to work, which was not entirely a lie. I felt physically ill, nauseous, exhausted, unable to sleep more than 3 hours a night. My legal fees were now $44,000. My savings were down to $536,000. The irony that my parents were forcing me to spend the money they claimed I should give them was not lost on me, but I was too tired to even feel angry about it anymore. Patricia called with more bad news. "Crystal filed for a restraining order against you. She claims you sent her threatening text messages." "What? I have not contacted her at all." "I know. But she produced screenshots. Messages that say things like, 'You will regret this,' and 'I will make sure you lose everything.' I never sent those. Check my phone records." "We will. But she claims you used a burner phone. The temporary restraining order has been granted. You cannot be within 500 feet of her. That means you cannot attend any family gathering where she is present. My grandmother's 80th birthday is next month. You cannot go if Crystal is there. I am sorry." The restraining order hearing was scheduled for 2 days before trial. I had to stand in front of a different judge and defend myself against accusations I had done nothing to earn. Patricia presented my phone records, showing no such messages sent. But Crystal's lawyer, a young woman who looked fresh out of law school, argued that the absence of evidence was not evidence of absence. I could have used a different phone. I could have deleted messages. The judge, clearly overwhelmed with a full docket, extended the temporary order. "Better to be cautious in domestic situations," he said. Domestic situations. I was now characterized as a domestic threat to my own sister. Walking out of that courthouse, I saw a news van. A local reporter approached me. "Mr. Torres, would you like to comment on the lawsuit filed by your parents?" "No comment," I said, trying to walk past. The story aired that night. Family sues successful son. Greed or principle? They showed my parents looking frail and sympathetic, then a photo of me looking angry as I walked away from the reporter. The story painted me as the villain. Wealthy son refuses to help struggling family. Elderly parents forced to sue. The comments online were vicious. The next morning, Gordon called me into his office. "Armando, HR is concerned. This news story has reached several of our clients. We pride ourselves on our company's reputation. This kind of publicity is not acceptable. It is a personal matter that has nothing to do with my job performance. Your job performance has been declining. You missed another deadline yesterday. Travis had to step in and complete your portion of the project. The promotion is off the table. We are giving it to Travis. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. Travis, who had been stealing my work and taking credit, was getting the promotion I had worked years for. Is there anything else? I asked numbly. The performance improvement plan stands. 60 days to show significant improvement or termination. I am sorry, Armando. I went back to my desk. Travis was at the coffee machine, smirking. He had won, and he knew it. That evening, I went to the grocery store. A woman I did not know stopped me in the produce section. You should be ashamed of yourself, she said. I saw the news. Refusing to help your own parents. I did not respond. I abandoned my cart and left. My phone buzzed constantly. Messages from family, friends, distant relatives, people I had not spoken to in years, all condemning me, all taking my parents' side. I blocked most of them, but it did not stop the flood. 2 nights before trial, I lay awake at 3 a.m, staring at my ceiling, seriously considering just settling, paying the $400,000 Patricia had suggested, ending this nightmare, going back to some semblance of normal life. But I could not do it. If I gave in, I would be rewarding their fraud. I would be teaching them that manipulation and lies work. I would be betraying myself. I got out of bed and opened my laptop. I started going through old photos, looking for anything I could remember from the past few years that might help my case. Family gatherings, holidays, anything. I found a photo from 3 years ago, Christmas at my parents' house. I was taking a picture of everyone around the tree, and in the background, barely visible, was my father's desk. There were papers on it. I zoomed in. The resolution was terrible, pixelated and blurry, but I could make out partial text on one document. Crystal House Fund, $200,000 goal by 2024. My hands started shaking. I scrolled through more photos. Thanksgiving, 2 years ago. A shot of the kitchen. My mother's planner was on the counter, open. I zoomed in. Her handwriting barely legible. C's house talk to A. About contribution after purchase. After purchase. They had planned this. They had always planned to buy Crystal a house and then pressure me to pay for it. This was not a spontaneous decision born of desperation. This was calculated. I called Patricia at 3:15 in the morning. She did not answer. I left a voicemail explaining what I found. She called back at 6:30. Armando, this is interesting but not definitive. The photos are too blurry to be admissible as clear evidence. We need something more concrete. What about a private investigator? Someone who can dig into their finances? That is expensive. Another $5,000 at least. Do it, I said. We have to find proof. She hired Dennis Rothman, a former police detective turned private investigator. He had 2 days to work before trial. Dennis moved fast. He called me at 9 that evening, 1 day before trial. I found some things, he said. Meet me at my office. His office was above a dry cleaner's in a strip mall. The furniture looked like it came from a thrift store, but Dennis himself looked sharp, focused. He spread documents across his desk. Your parents have been receiving $1,200 monthly from Crystal. Bank records show automatic transfers. What? Why? Officially, it is marked as payment for babysitting services. But according to a neighbor I interviewed, your parents watch Emma and Tyler for free every weekday after school. They have for years. So the payments are kickbacks. Appears that way. Crystal started sending the money right after the house purchase, like she is paying your parents back for the down payment, using money she claims not to have. He pulled out another document. Crystal has a boyfriend, Jake Morrissey. He moved into the house 3 weeks ago. He is a construction supervisor making $75,000 annually. She never mentioned having a partner who could contribute to expenses. She claimed to be a struggling single mother. She is neither struggling nor single, apparently. Dennis saved the best for last. He pulled out bank statements. Your parents took out a home equity loan for $150,000. We knew that, but look where the money went. $112,000 to Crystal's house, as they claimed. But the remaining $38,000 went into your parents' personal checking account. They kept it, they spent it. New RV in the driveway, purchased 2 months ago. $35,000, paid in cash. They bought a recreational vehicle, while claiming they are destitute and facing foreclosure. I could not believe it. Can we use this at trial? That is the problem. Trial starts tomorrow. Getting this evidence properly authenticated and submitted is nearly impossible in that time frame. Your lawyer can try, but the judge might exclude it as late discovery. I called Patricia. She confirmed what Dennis said. We can try to enter it, but opposing counsel will object. The judge has discretion. And honestly, Armando, even if we get it in, we are taking a huge gamble. If the jury does not believe us, or if they still sympathize with your parents, you face a $750,000 judgment and possible criminal investigation. What is the safe option? Settle. $400,000. Walk away. I thought about it for a long time. Everything in me wanted to settle. End the pain. End the stress. Go back to my life. But I could not. I had come too far. Lost too much. If I gave up now, it was all for nothing. We go to trial, I said. Are you sure? I have never been more sure of anything. Then get some sleep. Tomorrow is going to be a long day. I did not sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, knowing that in less than 12 hours, my entire future would be decided by 12 strangers who knew nothing about me except what my parents' lawyer would tell them. The morning of trial, I put on my best suit, the one I had bought for job interviews years ago. It still fit, barely. I had lost 15 pounds from stress. The courthouse was imposing, all marble and high ceilings. Patricia met me outside the courtroom. She looked tired, too. Remember, stay calm. Answer questions directly. Do not get emotional. Juries respond to facts, not feelings. Easy for you to say. We entered the courtroom. My parents were already seated with Bernard Weiss. Crystal sat beside them, wearing a modest dress that made her look vulnerable. Emma and Tyler were not present, thank goodness. There were limits even to Bernard's manipulation. Judge Ellen Ramirez entered. She was in her 50s, with sharp eyes and a reputation for running an efficient courtroom. I had researched her. She had a background as a prosecutor before becoming a judge. She did not tolerate nonsense. We will begin with opening statements, she said. Bernard stood. He was good, I had to admit. He painted a picture of devoted parents who sacrificed everything for their children, who took a financial risk to help their struggling daughter, who relied on their successful son's promise to contribute, only to be betrayed. He made me sound like a monster. Patricia's opening was more direct. She laid out the evidence of fraud, the forged documents, the fabricated texts. She promised to prove my parents had planned this from the beginning, that they had manipulated and lied to steal my life savings. Then, testimony began. My mother took the stand first. She looked small and frail in the witness box. She testified about raising me and Crystal, about sacrificing for us, about my father working 2 jobs when we were young. She showed photos of us as children, smiling and happy. She cried describing her heart condition, the stress of the lawsuit, the fear of losing their home. Bernard introduced the fake text messages. My mother testified that I had sent them, that I had promised to help. Did Armando ever explicitly tell you he would pay for Crystal's mortgage? Bernard asked. Yes. Last Christmas. He said family takes care of family, and he would always be there for Crystal and the children. It was a lie, a complete lie. But she told it with such conviction, such tearful sincerity, that I saw jurors nodding sympathetically. Patricia cross-examined, but my mother stuck to her story. She was good at this. Years of manipulating me had made her a skilled liar. Crystal testified next. She described her difficult divorce, her struggles as a single mother, her dreams of providing stability for Emma and Tyler. She claimed I had told her I would help, that I had encouraged her to look at houses in nice neighborhoods because I would contribute. Another lie. Miss Torres, are you currently in a relationship? Patricia asked during cross-examination. Objection. Relevance, Bernard said. It goes to her financial situation, Your Honor, Patricia replied. I will allow it, Judge Ramirez said. Crystal hesitated. I am seeing someone casually. Does this person live with you? Sometimes. Does he contribute financially to household expenses? Objection. Harassment, Bernard said. Overruled. Answer the question. He helps sometimes, Crystal admitted quietly. It was a small victory, but Bernard had already done his damage. Crystal looked sympathetic, struggling, trying to protect her children. My father testified about working multiple jobs, about the sacrifices they made, about the home equity loan. He showed the foreclosure notice they had received. 30 days to pay or lose the house. Then Bernard introduced the promissory note. The alleged $100,000 loan from 5 years ago. Mr. Torres, did your son ever repay this loan? No. We asked him several times, but he always had excuses. Eventually we stopped asking, because we did not want to strain the relationship. And now you are facing foreclosure in part because of this unpaid debt? Yes. Patricia's cross-examination pointed out inconsistencies. If they had loaned me $100,000, why were there no bank records showing that withdrawal? Why no tax documents reporting the loan? My father claimed it had been cash, from selling investments over time. It was a weak answer, but Bernard had prepared him well. By the end of day 1, I looked terrible. The jury had heard emotional testimony from my family, seen photos of innocent children, watched my mother cry about her heart condition. Patricia tried to reassure me. Tomorrow is our turn. We will present the evidence Dennis found. We will show the jury the truth. I went home to my empty apartment and ate nothing. I could not stomach food. Day 2 began with me on the stand. I testified calmly, as Patricia had coached me. I explained that I never agreed to pay for Crystal's house, never borrowed $100,000, never sent the text messages they produced. I described my years of saving, my modest lifestyle, my dream of buying my own home. Bernard's cross-examination was brutal. He made me sound cold, calculating, obsessed with money. He pointed out my 6-figure salary, my substantial savings, my comfort while my sister struggled. Mr. Torres, you have $580,000 in savings, correct? I have $536,000 now. I have spent $44,000 on legal fees fighting this lawsuit. So you have spent $44,000 to avoid helping your family? I have spent $44,000 defending myself against fraud. You call your own parents frauds? I call forged documents and fabricated evidence fraud. Some jurors looked uncomfortable. Bernard was making me look arrogant, heartless. Then Patricia called Dennis Rothman. He testified about the bank records, the $1,200 monthly payments from Crystal to my parents, Jake Morrissey living in the house, the $35,000 RV purchased with money from the home equity loan. Bernard objected repeatedly, claiming the evidence was improperly disclosed. Judge Ramirez looked at Patricia. When did you discover this evidence? Within the past 48 hours, Your Honor. That is highly irregular. Your Honor, this evidence is critical. It proves the plaintiffs misrepresented their financial situation. Judge Ramirez thought for a long moment. I will allow it, but I am not pleased with the timing. The jury will weigh the late disclosure in their deliberations. It was a hollow victory. The evidence was in, but tainted. Patricia called Jake Morrissey to the stand. He had been subpoenaed that morning. He was 38, rugged-looking, clearly uncomfortable. Mr. Morrissey, do you live with Crystal Torres? I have been staying there for a few weeks. Do you contribute to household expenses? Sometimes. I pay for groceries and utilities. What is your annual income? About $75,000. Patricia let that hang in the air. Crystal was not a struggling single mother with no help. She had a partner earning good money living with her. The bank officer testified about the home equity loan, confirming that only $112,000 went to Crystal's house, the rest to my parents' personal account. The RV dealership manager confirmed the sale. $35,000, cash payment, 2 months ago. Finally, Patricia called a forensic document examiner. She testified that the promissory note for the $100,000 loan was written on paper, manufactured in 2023, not 2020 as the date indicated. The signature was a skilled forgery, but analysis showed hesitation marks consistent with someone copying rather than naturally signing. The evidence was overwhelming. My parents had lied. Crystal had lied. They had committed fraud. But Bernard had one more move. During his closing argument, he focused entirely on emotion. He showed the jury photos of Emma and Tyler. He talked about innocent children who would suffer if Crystal lost the house. He described elderly parents who might lose their home, who acted out of love, even if they made mistakes. Yes, maybe they should not have bought that house. Yes, maybe they were overly optimistic about their son's willingness to help. Yes, maybe they made errors in documenting their loan. But does that make them criminals? Or does it make them parents who loved their children and grandchildren so much they made poor decisions? He pointed at me. Armando Torres has the money to solve this entire problem. He could write a check today, and everyone goes home happy. But he chooses not to. He chooses litigation. He chooses to attack his own family's credibility rather than help them. What does that tell you about his character? Patricia's closing focused on the law. This is not about whether Armando should help his family. That is a personal choice. This is about whether he can be legally compelled to pay for a house he did not agree to purchase, based on promises he never made, supported by evidence that has been proven fraudulent. The answer is no. And if you reward the plaintiffs for this behavior, you tell everyone that lying to courts, forging documents, and manipulating the legal system is acceptable if you can make people feel sorry for you. Judge Ramirez gave jury instructions. Then they left to deliberate. We waited. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3. Patricia and I sat in the hallway. I could not talk, could not think. After 4 hours, the jury sent a note. They had a question. We returned to the courtroom. Judge Ramirez read the question aloud. The jury asks, "Is there any evidence that Armando Torres explicitly agreed, in writing or recorded communication, to pay for Crystal Torres's house?" Patricia stood. "No, Your Honor. There is no such evidence. The text messages presented by plaintiffs have been disputed and are not verified." Bernard stood. "The testimony of the plaintiffs constitutes evidence." Your Honor. Judge Ramirez nodded. "The answer is that testimony is evidence, but there is no undisputed written or recorded agreement." The jury went back to deliberate. 30 minutes later, they returned. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" Judge Ramirez asked. "We have, Your Honor," the foreman said. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. "On the claim for $560,000 for the mortgage, we find for the defendant, Armando Torres." I exhaled. Patricia squeezed my arm. "On the claim for $100,000 for the alleged loan, we find for the defendant, Armando Torres." Relief flooded through me. But Judge Ramirez was not done. "Before this court is dismissed, I have questions for the plaintiffs." My parents looked nervous. Bernard looked confused. Judge Ramirez stared directly at my parents. "Mr. and Mrs. Torres, you took out a home equity loan for $150,000. You gave your daughter $112,000 for a house down payment. You kept $38,000. You then sued your son for $560,000 to cover a mortgage you voluntarily obligated yourselves to support. Can you explain to me why your son should be financially responsible for a decision he had no part in making?" My father opened his mouth, then closed it. My mother started to cry, but Judge Ramirez cut her off. "I am asking a legal question, not asking for tears. Counselor Weiss, perhaps you can explain." Bernard stood. "Your Honor, our position was based on moral obligation and family responsibility. Moral obligations do not create enforceable contracts, counselor. You are an experienced attorney. You know this. She turned back to my parents. You presented forged text messages. You presented a forged promissory note that has been proven to be created using paper from the wrong time period. You hid income from your daughter. You misrepresented your financial situation by failing to disclose the RV purchase. You presented a narrative of poverty while spending $38,000 on luxury items. The courtroom was silent. You also filed this lawsuit with Mr. Weiss, who I have just learned is your personal friend of 40 years. That relationship should have been disclosed. That is an ethical violation. I will be reporting to the state bar. Bernard's face went pale. Here is my ruling. All claims are dismissed with prejudice, meaning they cannot be refiled. I find that the plaintiffs committed fraud upon this court through the presentation of forged documents and false testimony. I am ordering the plaintiffs to pay the defendant's legal fees in full. She looked at the dollar amount Patricia submitted. $60,000, to be paid within 90 days. My mother gasped. Furthermore, I am referring this case to the district attorney's office for potential criminal prosecution for forgery, perjury, and fraud. She banged her gavel. This court is adjourned. I sat stunned. I had won. Completely. Totally. My parents had been exposed, humiliated, and now faced criminal charges. Patricia was smiling. That was better than I could have hoped for. My parents and Crystal rushed out of the courtroom without looking at me. Bernard avoided eye contact, gathering his papers quickly. Outside, news cameras were waiting. This time, I did not run. Mr. Torres, how do you feel about the verdict? Relieved. The truth came out. That is all I wanted. Your parents may face criminal charges. How do you feel about that? I feel that actions have consequences. They made choices. Now they face the results of those choices. I walked away, Patricia beside me. What now? I asked. Now you wait for your $60,000. It will take a few weeks to process. You also have grounds for a countersuit for defamation, emotional distress, and malicious prosecution. Could be worth another $200,000. I thought about it. No. I just want this over. Smart choice, she said. Go home. Rest. This is finished. I drove back to my apartment in a daze. It was over. I had won. But I did not feel victorious. I felt empty. The days after the trial blurred together. The local news covered the verdict. Family lawsuit backfires. Judge finds fraud. The comments online shifted. People who had condemned me now praised me for standing up for myself. It felt hollow. My phone started ringing with apology calls. My Aunt Denise called crying, saying she was sorry for not believing me. Cousins who had posted condemning messages now sent texts asking for forgiveness. Even some family friends reached out. I did not answer most of them. I was too tired. Gordon called me into his office. He looked uncomfortable. Armando, I owe you an apology. I should have been more supportive during this difficult time. The performance improvement plan is rescinded, and I would like to offer you the promotion we discussed. $25,000 raise, effective immediately. What about Travis? Gordon's expression darkened. Travis has been terminated. We discovered he was taking credit for your work and making false claims about his contributions. That is unacceptable. I should have felt satisfaction. Instead, I just felt tired. Thank you, I said. I accept the promotion. 3 weeks after the trial, the $60,000 reimbursement came through. My savings account went back up to $596,000, more than I started with. My grandmother called. She was 80 years old, and her voice was weak. Armando, I am so sorry. I believed your mother's lies. I said terrible things to you. Can you forgive me? Of course, Grandma. You did not know. I should have known. I should have trusted you. You were always a good boy. We talked for an hour. She told me about how my parents had manipulated the entire family, how they had convinced everyone I was heartless and greedy. They are not talking to anyone now, she said. They are ashamed, as they should be. What about the criminal charges? I asked. Still pending. They have a lawyer, a public defender this time. They cannot afford Bernard anymore. 6 weeks after trial, I closed on a house. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, ranch style, in a quiet neighborhood. $340,000. I had saved for 8 years for this moment. Moving in should have felt triumphant. Instead, it felt surreal. I walked through the empty rooms, my footsteps echoing, and thought about how different my life looked now. I had my house. I had my promotion. I had won in court. But I had lost my family, at least for now. I started therapy. Dr. Martinez specialized in family trauma. She helped me understand that what my parents did was emotional and financial abuse, that their love had always been conditional, that Crystal had been the golden child, and I had been the scapegoat. You spent years trying to earn approval you were never going to receive, she said. That was not your failure. That was theirs. 3 months after trial, I got a call from Patricia. Your parents were convicted. Probation, community service, $15,000 in fines. No jail time. Good, I said, though I was not sure how I felt. They also lost their house. Could not keep up with the home equity loan payments. They are living in a rental apartment now. Part of me felt guilty. Part of me felt they deserved it. Mostly, I just felt sad that it had come to this. 4 months after trial, my parents reached out through a mediator. They wanted to meet, to talk, to reconcile. I agreed, but only with a family therapist present. We met at a park on a Saturday morning. Neutral territory. The therapist, Dr. Brennan, sat between us at a picnic table. My mother looked older. My father looked tired. Neither would make eye contact. Armando, we want to apologize, my mother said. For what specifically? Dr. Brennan prompted. For the lawsuit, for the forged documents, for lying. Why did you do it? I asked. My father spoke. We thought you had more money than you needed. We thought you should share with family. Crystal was struggling. We wanted to help her. So you decided to steal from me? We did not see it as stealing, my mother said. We saw it as evening things out. Crystal had a harder life. You were successful. It seemed fair. Fair would have been asking me if I wanted to help, and respecting my answer, I said. Fair would have been not forging documents and lying to a court. We know that now, my father said. We made terrible mistakes. Mistakes are accidents, I said. What you did was deliberate, calculated. You planned to buy Crystal that house and stick me with the bill. I found the evidence. You wrote about it years ago. My mother started crying. We just wanted everyone to be happy. You wanted everyone to be comfortable at my expense, I corrected. That is not the same thing. Dr. Brennan guided us through 2 hours of difficult conversation. My parents apologized repeatedly, but I could tell they still did not fully understand why what they did was wrong. They kept making excuses, talking about family obligation, about how much they sacrificed raising us. Raising a child is a parent's responsibility, not a debt the child owes forever, I said. I did not ask to be born. You chose to have me. That came with obligations you accepted. My success is not your retirement plan. They did not understand. Maybe they never would, but I set boundaries. Limited contact, supervised visits, no discussions about money, ever. 8 months after trial, Crystal reached out. She sent a long email apologizing. She admitted she had been entitled, spoiled, complicit in the scheme. She had lost Jake, lost friends, lost her reputation. She was working 2 jobs to keep the house and it was destroying her. She asked if we could rebuild our relationship. I agreed to meet for coffee. It was awkward, painful, but she seemed genuinely remorseful. I never thought about what I was asking you to sacrifice, she said. I just saw a way to get what I wanted and convinced myself I deserved it. Why did you think you deserved it? Because Mom and Dad always told me I did. They made me believe I was special, that the world owed me things. They did me no favors raising me that way. It was the most honest thing she had ever said to me. We started rebuilding slowly. One coffee every few weeks, then occasional dinners. It would take years to truly heal that relationship, if it ever fully healed. But it was a start. 1 year after trial, I sat on my back porch on a Saturday morning. The sun was warm, birds were singing. I had a cup of coffee and nothing pressing to do. My grandmother was visiting later. We had dinner plans. She and I had grown close over the past year. She had apologized so many times I finally had to tell her to stop. She was not responsible for my parents' choices. I thought about the journey, the pain, the betrayal, the fear, the nights I could not sleep, the moments I wanted to give up, and I thought about what I gained. I gained my house, my dream. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a backyard where I could sit and drink coffee in peace. I gained my self-respect. I had stood up to people I loved who were wrong. I had refused to be manipulated. I had fought for myself when no one else would. I gained clarity about who my real family was. Not the people who shared my blood, but the people who supported me when it mattered. My grandmother, a few cousins who had reached out. Even Patricia, who had believed me from the beginning. I gained freedom. Freedom from the guilt I had carried for years. Freedom from trying to earn love that was never going to be freely given. Freedom from obligation to people who saw me as a resource rather than a person. My phone buzzed. A text from Dr. Martinez, my therapist. "How are you doing today?" I typed back. "I think I am finally okay." She responded, "You were always okay. Now you just know it." I smiled. The sun was warm on my face. My coffee was hot. My house was mine, paid for with money I earned through 8 years of discipline and sacrifice. This was what I worked for. This was what I fought for. This was worth it. A year and a half after the trial, my life looked completely different. I had been promoted again at work, senior software engineer, managing a small team. The raise brought my salary to $165,000 annually. Gordon had become a genuine mentor, often telling new employees about my professionalism during a difficult time. My house was no longer empty. I had furnished it slowly, carefully, choosing pieces I actually liked rather than just filling space. The guest room was set up for when my grandmother visited, which she did once a month. We had Sunday dinners, just the 2 of us, and talked about everything. I had started dating again. Her name was Rachel. She was an architect, thoughtful and independent. When I told her about the lawsuit, she listened without judgment and said, "You did the right thing. Boundaries matter." I knew then that she was different from Lynn. Crystal and I had settled into a cautious friendship. She had sold the house, unable to afford it, and moved into a smaller place. She seemed happier now, less obsessed with appearances, more focused on actually being present for Emma and Tyler. The kids were doing well. I took them to baseball games sometimes, just the 3 of us. They were good kids who had been caught in the middle of adult dysfunction. My parents and I maintained minimal contact. We exchanged birthday cards. We attended family gatherings with my grandmother present as a buffer. The relationship was cordial, but distant. I had accepted that they would never fully understand what they did wrong, and I had made peace with that. Dr. Martinez and I still met monthly. She had helped me understand patterns I had carried my whole life. The need to prove myself, the fear of disappointing people, the belief that my worth was tied to my usefulness to others. "You are valuable because you exist," she had told me, "not because of what you do for other people." It took a long time for me to believe that. The criminal case against my parents had concluded. They completed their probation, did their community service, paid their fines. The convictions would stay on their records. They had learned an expensive lesson. Bernard Weiss had been suspended from practicing law for 6 months for the ethical violations. His reputation was damaged. I felt no satisfaction in that, just sadness that it had all been so unnecessary. I had thought about writing this story down, sharing it somehow. Dr. Martinez encouraged it. Other people are dealing with toxic family dynamics, she said. Your story might help them feel less alone. So here I am, sitting at my kitchen table in my own house, telling you what happened. I learned things I wish I had known earlier in life. I learned that boundaries are not selfish. They are essential. Saying no to what is wrong does not make you a bad person. It makes you a person who respects yourself. I learned that family is not just biology. Blood relatives who manipulate, lie, and harm you are not truly family. Family is the people who support you, who respect you, who want what is best for you, even when it is inconvenient for them. I learned that fighting for yourself is worth it. There were so many moments I wanted to surrender, to pay them just to end the nightmare. I'm grateful I did not. Standing up for myself cost me time, money, and emotional pain. But giving in would have cost me my self-respect forever. I learned that justice exists, but you have to fight for it. The legal system is not perfect. Judges can be swayed by emotion. Evidence can be challenged. But truth has power. If you document everything, stay calm, and refuse to give up, justice can prevail. I learned that success is not measured by what you give others. For years, I felt guilty for being successful, for saving money, for wanting my own life. I know now that my success is mine. I earned it. I do not owe anyone my achievements. Helping others is a choice I make freely, not an obligation others can demand. Most importantly, I learned that you can survive betrayal by the people you love most. You can stand alone when everyone turns against you. You can endure pain that feels unbearable. And you can come out the other side, stronger, clearer, and more yourself than you have ever been. My parents tried to take everything from me. My savings, my dreams, my reputation, my career, my peace of mind. But they failed. Instead, they gave me something unexpected. They gave me freedom. Freedom from toxic obligation. Freedom from conditional love. Freedom from guilt that was never mine to carry. I own my house. I have meaningful relationships. I have work I am good at. I have money in the bank. Most importantly, I have peace. My tip: when I walk through my home now, I feel proud. Not proud in an arrogant way, but in a quiet, satisfied way. I did this. I saved for 8 years. I fought for 18 months. I stood my ground when everyone told me I was wrong. This is mine. Every square foot, every piece of furniture, every moment of quiet on Saturday mornings. Emma called me last week. She is 10 now, growing up fast. Uncle Armando, we are learning about perseverance in school. My teacher asked us to think of someone who never gave up even when things were hard. I thought of you. I cried after that call. Happy tears for once. Tyler wants to be an engineer like me. He asks questions about coding and computers. I am teaching him, slowly. He is bright and curious. I see potential in him. End quote. Rachel and I are talking about moving in together. It is scary and exciting. I am learning to trust again, to let someone in, to believe that not everyone will use my vulnerability against me. My grandmother is 82 now. She is slowing down, but her mind is sharp. Last Sunday, she looked at me across the dinner table and said, "I am so proud of the man you have become. Not because you won that lawsuit, but because you never let bitterness destroy you." That meant more than the verdict ever did. If you are listening to this story, and you are dealing with toxic family members who demand things you do not owe, who manipulate and guilt you, who refuse to respect your boundaries, I want you to know something. You are not selfish for protecting yourself. You are not cruel for saying no. You are not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. Your life is yours. Your money is yours. Your choices are yours. Real love respects boundaries. Real love does not demand sacrifice as proof of caring. Real love does not manipulate or threaten or lie. If the people in your life cannot love you without controlling you, they do not actually love you. They love what you can do for them. That is not the same thing. Fight for yourself. Even when it is hard. Even when you are alone. Even when everyone tells you that you are wrong. Because at the end of the day, you have to live with yourself. And living with dignity and self-respect is worth any price. I paid $60,000 in legal fees before reimbursement. I lost a relationship. I lost a year of sleep. I lost my sense of safety with my own parents. But I kept my integrity. I kept my savings. I kept my dream. I kept myself. And that is worth everything. So here is my question for you. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who demanded something you did not owe them? How did you handle it? Did you set boundaries? Or did you give in to keep the peace? What would you do differently if you could go back? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I read them all, and your stories matter. If this story helped you feel less alone, or gave you courage to stand up for yourself, please hit the like button and subscribe. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes people need permission to protect themselves, and maybe this story can give them that permission. Thank you for listening to my story. It was not easy to tell, but I hope it helps someone out there who is fighting their own battle against manipulation and guilt. Remember, your worth is not determined by what you give others. You are valuable simply because you exist. Take care of yourselves. Set your boundaries. Protect your peace. And never apologize for refusing to be taken advantage of. You deserve better, and better is possible. Thank you, and I wish you strength, clarity, and the courage to choose yourself.